Welcome to Education Insight. I'm Lacey Kendall. In the past year, there has been a lot of discussion about preschool. The reason being is that educators, researchers, scientists, politicians, and a whole lot of data has proven that if you want your child to make it to college, starting them at preschool has extraordinary payoffs for that child's lifelong learning. Unfortunately, preschool operates differently in every community. There are many programs providing free preschool to very poor communities, and a number of almost Ivy League preschools for very wealthy families. Many middle-class families have been unable to afford what was left for their child. But then Kevin McCarty, the state representative from Sacramento, crafted AB 22, a bill that was aimed at making preschool, or transitional kindergarten as it's being called, possible and free for any family in California that wants to enroll their child. It passed in August, and with the assistance of AB 130, which provides wraparound services like additional child care and extra funding, California is now setting up programs across the state. Today, we're sorting through the differences in preschool and transitional kindergarten, plus what parents can expect. We'll discuss the changes coming with the bill's founder in moments. But first, we meet Karen Scott, Executive Director of First 5 San Bernardino, one of the area's top experts. Thanks for taking our call. Karen, why are preschool and kindergarten so important for children overall?
Well, preschool and kindergarten are part of our early childhood education, what we call ECE, and that aims to improve the cognitive and social development of children ages 3 or 4 years. Early childhood education interventions can improve all children's development and act as a protective factor against the future onset of even adult disease and disability. Children disadvantaged by poverty may experience an even greater benefit because ECE programs also seek to prevent or minimize gaps in school readiness between low-income and more economically advantaged children.
Mm-hmm. So now we're not just hearing about preschool and pre-K, but TK. Could you explain the difference between TK and preschool?
So TK, Transitional Kindergarten, that aligns with recommendations in the governor's master plan for early learning and care, a project that was done a couple of years ago. So TK is a bridge between preschool and kindergarten, but preschool and TK are very similar. So Transitional Kindergarten is the first year of a 2-year kindergarten program that uses a modified kindergarten curriculum that's age and developmentally appropriate. So Senate Bill 858 established the intent that TK curriculum would be aligned to the California Preschool Learning Foundations and California Preschool Curriculum Frameworks developed by our California Department of Education.
Karen, what do you believe are the major advantages or benefits of universal TK?
TK may have the benefit of introducing the typical school setting at an earlier age. It can be offered in various locations and settings, so it may be a convenient childcare option and high-quality educational opportunity for many families. Mm-hmm. TK allows children to grow the social and emotional skills that are so necessary for them to succeed in life. Children who participate in TK develop both their confidence and their self-control, as something that they can do before they go straight to kindergarten.
Yeah.
And let me add this, Lacey. From a First 5 perspective, where our goal is to promote and support the early development of a child between prenatal through 5 years old, we see TK as an opportunity where delays and deficiencies can be identified earlier and then successful interventions applied when they're less costly and more effective, also helping to support the outcomes for that child.
Mm. Well, that makes a big difference. What does research that's been done tell us about the value of universal TK? What does it say?
So research shows that access to high-quality early learning opportunities improves children's social, emotional development, their school readiness, and long-term academic achievement. However, many families lack access to high-quality pre-K programs, and too many children enter kindergarten unprepared for school and never catch up. A study by the American Institute of Research found that TK significantly improves kindergarten readiness, putting children ahead of their non-TK peers by up to 6 months in some academic skills. TK gives students an advantage in literacy, language, math, and problem-solving skills compared to non-TK students, even those with other preschool experiences. So that's what the research shows.
Yeah. So we're hearing that these programs are going to start really rolling out with new legislation. So imagine, Karen, what would be called a high-quality TK program. How would you describe the characteristics of such a program? What would that look like?
So a high-quality early childhood program provides a safe and nurturing environment while promoting the physical, social, emotional, and intellectual development of young children. Ideally, the program has lower student-to-teacher ratios, and the teachers are educated on how to respond, are educated in trauma-informed care and adverse childhood experiences, all resources or services that they can provide to children to improve the quality of their program.
At First Five San Bernardino, everything you and your team do is about helping to make education and life in general better for kids up to the age of 5 years old. So in the work that you've done and in all the discussions that we're hearing about Universal TK, Karen, what do you see as the biggest challenges we're going to encounter in adopting high-quality Universal TK here in inland Southern California? What do you think it'll be?
Gotcha. Well, Lacey, some child care programs, some early childhood experts, families, and advocates actually oppose AB 22, Universal Transitional Kindergarten Bill. And some of their concerns include that Universal TK is not equity-focused, meaning that TK builds upon our existing public school system, which is generally acknowledged to be inequitable as it is, especially for Black and Latinx children. Also, I learned that the TK program in AB 222 is part day and only 9 months per year, which does not support working families. Families with fewer economic resources will have only one free option, which gives them fewer choices than they have currently. Another issue is that women trying to work, people with the fewest resources, and families of color have been hit the hardest by the pandemic. So to help families continue their work, legislators must provide no or low-cost childcare options in a variety of settings during parents' working hours, in nurturing and enriching environments, not just the one-size-fits-all TK option. The transition to TK would be inequitable to child care providers, too. If child care programs close, many women of color and immigrant women who make up the largest portion of the workforce could lose their livelihood. So the types of flexible, affordable care that parents need most, family child care homes, child care centers, and family friend and neighbor care, are severely underfunded already. AB 22 could draw on education dollars from Prop 98 and take general fund dollars away from these other programs that families so greatly need. So I think that could be a huge, huge challenge for adopting high-quality universal TK here in our region. But, discussions are taking place and solutions are being sought to encounter those challenges.
Yeah, a lot to juggle with this. If you just joined us, we're speaking with Karen Scott. She is the Executive Director of First Five San Bernardino. We're discussing Universal Transitional Kindergarten, something that we used to call, most of us, preschool, and which may very soon be available to every single child in California free of charge. Lots of discussions going on about that before it's fully implemented. Karen, let's get down to what the goals are. What kinds of skills are children learning or developing when they attend TK programs?
Well, young children need play, okay? Play is, so very important. A 2018 report by the American Academy of Pediatrics reinforced this idea, calling for more play in childhood and saying play is not frivolous. So such activity enhances their brain structure, it helps kids pursue goals and ignore distractions, and develops children's creativity, problem-solving skills, and a host of other factors needed for success. Learning should be age-appropriate, and TK programs should avoid spending considerably more time on academics than play and activity.
On the surface, it appears we're going to have more qualified teachers. I mean, before you answer that, what are the opportunities or challenges that we could see in staffing local schools with teachers?
California is experiencing an ongoing teacher shortage that especially affects our low-income schools. According to a March report by the Learning Policy Institute, the pandemic has worsened the shortage, with many teachers retiring or resigning because of burnout, and there aren't enough teachers in the pipeline. Well, what do we see as opportunities or challenges around staffing? Well, our governor plans to phase in TK over 3 years, in stark contrast to the rapid and disruptive imposition of the 20-student limit on class sizes for primary grades during the 1990s. The demand for teachers was so high then that low-income schools lost teachers to higher-income districts, and many classes were taught by people with severely substandard training and skills. Still expecting to find enough college-graduated, credentialed teachers for hundreds of thousands of new students within 3 years, teachers who should receive additional training in child development sounds risky. But Newsom, our governor, is planning to spend substantially more to bring new teachers on board, but that's no guarantee that college students will be drawn to the field.
Right.
Well-qualified, talented teachers are crucial to the success of TK and all of the grades above it. And if wealthier schools are able to siphon off the most qualified, that worsens the inequities we spoke of earlier among young children. But with the like of the San Bernardino County Superintendent of Schools, our San Bernardino County Preschool Services Department, our Child Care Resource Center, our Child Care Policy Council, Quality Start San Bernardino, our community colleges, First Five, and San Bernardino County Economic Development, again, just to name a few, San Bernardino County has excellent partnerships in early childhood education and workforce development. And the issue of ensuring enough teachers to bring high-quality early education experiences to our children is something that is being worked on continually, and I'm sure we will get there.
So we could say that you are feeling hopeful about the possibility.
I'm feeling hopeful.
Okay.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
What should our Inland Empire community, and especially parents who might be listening right now, what should they be doing to prepare for the implementation of Universal TK? Before you answer that, we need to take a quick break. We're speaking with Karen Scott, the Executive Director of First Five San Bernardino, and we're discussing the new free transitional kindergarten that is coming to California preschoolers, including here in the Inland Empire. I'm Lacey Kendall, and this is Education Insight. Welcome back to Education Insight. I'm Lacey Kendall. We're speaking with Karen Scott, Executive Director of First Five San Bernardino. Karen, before the break, I asked what parents should be doing right now as decisions are being made in their communities that will affect the very beginning of education for children for decades to come. Talking about free preschool for everyone. What should they be doing?
Oh, I would recommend that parents lend their voices to what they need and what they'd like to see in the program. You know, we can develop programs, but without community engagement and without parent voice, you know, we're not sure if we're going to get it right. So I think parents need to lend their voices wherever they can. They need to attend community forums like the ones offered by the San Bernardino County Superintendent of Schools. They need to respond to surveys that seek their opinions. And First Five currently has, we're working on a parent panel where we can get parents' voice on different issues. And then they just need to express their innovative ideas and options and how, you know, what blended solutions are needed. Again, it's maybe not be a one-size-fits-all, but they know what they need to have, you know, their families be and children be successful. They just need to really use their voices.
Yeah. Karen Scott, the Executive Director of First Five San Bernardino, helping us today to understand Universal Transitional Kindergarten. That is coming soon to every child in California, free of charge, but still in development. Karen, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Lacey.
If you'd like to learn more about transitional kindergarten in your area, call the San Bernardino County Superintendent of Schools office at 909-386-2413. That's 909-386-2413.
This is Education Insight. I'm Lacey Kendall. For decades, data and experts have suggested very strongly that when a child goes to preschool, they are more likely to make it to college and to be a better learner. Today, we're hearing why preschool now being referred to as Transitional Kindergarten, or TK, makes such a notable difference in children's outcomes and what it's going to be like when California joins a handful of states offering it for free to any family that would like their child to attend. No one would know better than the architect of AB 22. That is the successfully passed Universal TK bill. State Representative Kevin McCarty joins us by phone. Mr. McCarty, first off, thank you for joining us. I'm wondering what it was that inspired you to take on this fight to make transitional kindergarten not just available, but free for any preschool age child in California.
Well, early education and pre-K is a difference maker, a proven difference maker for our youngest learners. Research shows that kids who do good in school, frankly, grades, graduation, and even, after that, in life and salaries, wages, and staying out of the criminal justice system. Research shows that kids who get a high quality early ed have a big advantage. So we've been trying to make California a universal pre-K state for many years. And, a bunch of other states across the nation had already done it, red states and blue states. So this is kind of one of the things we were really lacking with. And last year, we were able to put all the pieces together and make a universal pre-K a reality in California with our transitional kindergarten program. But I want to state at the outset that it's not just the TK for all, which is part of our ECE puzzle. We're also dramatically increasing childcare slots. We have 200,000 new childcare slots we're putting out in the next couple of years. We're increasing reimbursement rates to make sure that family childcare providers, pre-K programs can pay adequate wages to their workers and make sure they can be financially viable. So, this universal TK, a big deal, but it's a piece of the larger ECE puzzle for our youngest learners in California.
So why do you think it's a game changer for California? And as many people are saying, perhaps even a game changer for the nation. Why would that be?
Well, two things. Let's focus on the kids. Let's focus on the parents. So for kids, we've had this lingering achievement gap in school. It's really an opportunity gap, and research shows that the kids start kindergarten behind, they stay behind. We have this school to prison pipeline where too many kids end up in the criminal justice system early on, and we have intergenerational poverty where in so many areas throughout California and the Inland Empire and the Coachella Valley. For our listeners here today, families are stuck in poverty from generation to generation. And if you ask researchers and economists, what's the one thing you can do to address these three issues? They come to one thing: early education. So that's why it's a game changer to address some of the most difficult challenges we've been trying to tackle in California: the school opportunity achievement gap, criminal justice issues, and also intergenerational poverty. And then for the parents out there, it costs more to send your kid to preschool in the Riverside area than it does to send your kid to UC Riverside. I'll repeat that. It costs more per month to send your kid to preschool than it does to go to UC Riverside.
Wow.
So what happens, we do have this subsidized pre-K program. And by the way, that's not going away. We still have the subsidized pre-K program where centers can serve kids 0 through 4, and even 4 if they're income eligible. But there's a lot of families, maybe they're a family of 4 and let's say they make $75,000. Well, they're too rich to get the free pre-K we've been offering for families all these years. And they're too poor to pay the, $1,500 a month what it costs to go to a private pre-K program for their 4-year-old. So this is going to be a huge game changer for middle-class families if they want to make a choice to go to this pre-K program at their local school. And again, it's voluntary. They don't have to go. This is optional program, but we think it's going to be very successful. And why do we say that? Because we've had TK for the last 11 years in California, but just for a quarter of the kids. Because of a quirk in state law, you only get TK, which is free for families regardless of their income, if your kid is born between roughly September 1st and December 1st. So the fall babies have been getting free TK since 2010. So now this will be equitable. And research has shown that TK is a big difference maker for student achievement. So this is a game changer in California.
You say that many parents will choose, yes, to enroll their child and others won't. How many students do you think that we're looking at that will be involved in this program here in California?
Yeah, we think up to 300,000 4-year-olds, and every year there's a new crop of 4-year-olds, will be eligible by the time this is fully implemented. And this is not happening overnight. The law goes into effect this July 1. So starting this fall, families can start, but it's going to be implemented over a 3-4 year period. Some school districts are going to start to do it faster. Some are going to wait those several years. And so by the later part of this decade, 2026-ish, that 300,000 new families will get free pre-K, free universal pre-K with our transitional kindergarten programs at our local schools. And that's on top of the existing 150,000 students that currently are in the TK program because they were lucky enough to be born in the fall.
Mm-hmm. You're listening to Education Insight. Mr. McCarty, some news reports have said that benefits of TK are most significant for students and families from Black, from Latinx, Indigenous, and other low-income backgrounds. But our prior guest, Karen Scott from First Five, said that it may not serve minority working families well because it doesn't consider the working parent. So which of these is actually correct?
Well, like a lot in politics and government, it's probably a little bit in the middle. Mm-hmm. I think that research has been crystal clear that TK works, and they've had market gains for student achievement for kids that have been through the program, especially for Black and Latino kids throughout California. But working parents need to figure out school just like they need to figure out how they, what happens with their kids when they're in kindergarten and first grade. So it's hard for working parents what to do after school. That's why a big piece of the puzzle that we're doing is not just saying, TK for all, we're done, calling it a day. No, a big piece of this is we're providing additional monies for families to have wraparound services. So after TK gets out, they can have after school programming. We also, we do allow working families that are currently income eligible for the free to stay there. So if they want to stay at their family childcare home or a state nonprofit that does state preschool that is full day, they can stay there. We're also working to change the law to make sure that all pre-K programs through our school districts, through this universal TK, are full day. Full day as far as the school full day, not full day like 8 a.m. till 6 p.m.
Right.
A few schools throughout California are still have the really part day kinder, like the 3 hours. So that doesn't work for working families, and we admit it. Most are not like that. We did some research a couple of years ago, and 3/4 roughly are doing the full school day. So we're working to make that the law. So we're working to make sure that we have something that works for all families. And some of the good news is by not having as many kids in the existing state preschool money, we can use that money for more wraparound and after school. And there's another budget proposal that was funded last year that we have universal after school. So we have I think a lot of resources and a number of years to sort this out. But I'll readily admit that change is hard, and people are sometimes nervous about upsetting the traditional order of things. And so we do need to make sure that we talk about things like the workforce and facilities, because if you want to turn on the spigot right now and make sure to have it go to it's not going to work. So this is going to take some time dealing with workforce and facilities. And that's why we're doing this over a number of years. It's not going to be overnight.
The Public Policy Institute of California very recently reported that 70% of Californians support state-funded pre-K, which is a little different than some other states that don't feel as positive about it. So why do you think Californians are so supportive of this initiative?
Well, I think two things. They know that, one, it's super expensive. And if you're really low income, maybe you get a subsidy to pay for your little one to go. Or if you're super rich, you can pay for it yourself. But people in the middle get squeezed. And so, I think more and more people are thinking education has a benefit to society, not just that family, to everybody. So having the state pay more for early education and even higher education, things like college, has a benefit, for our economy, for our workforce. So we get that. And then I think people more and more know that just the brain research shows that it's such a difference maker. And, if you want to invest early in something, this is what you want to invest in: early education. So Californians, supported by, ironically, California has been behind the curve in this. We're one of the few states that hadn't had universal early ed for all 4-year-olds. So we're stepping up. We're making it happen. The president, as part of his Build Back Better, has this as an idea too. And so one of the questions may be, hey, what happens if the Congress passes, that bill? So what we would do is just make ours better, serve more infants and toddlers and 3-year-olds. And, just think about it. If you're, a community that traditionally doesn't have any early education, and if you can have, kind of universal from, for infants and toddlers and for 4-year-olds, those kids are going to be ready to go to kindergarten and thrive and do much better in school and in life.
I noticed that it's also about implementing quality improvements to address social, emotional, and early academic development. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. You can't just open the doors and say, universal pre-K, it's going to work. It's going to have impacts. And it's going to be good for kids. We need to make sure we have appropriate classrooms and facilities. It can't be like a sterile classroom for 4th graders. You need to make sure you have smaller spaces and, things like common sense, like little restrooms for the kids, little sinks, outdoor play areas, because, pre-K shouldn't just be about academics. It's social and emotional. And so that is really key, to make sure you have the right facility, to make sure you have the right number of adults in the classroom. So, traditionally kindergarten and TK was sometimes one teacher and 20 plus students. And, that's insane. I wouldn't want to be that person teaching 20 little 4-year-olds. It's hard. Yeah. So we clarified in the bill that these classrooms need to have 2 teachers per each classroom. So the ratio will be roughly 1 adult for 10 kids, which is kind of what we do for all of our preschool programs throughout California. So 1 lead teacher and 1 kind of paraprofessional in the classroom. So, we're making sure we have the right curriculum that focuses on not just, the drill and kill and testing and academics, but pre-K is about teaching the softer skills and, social and emotional, getting ready. So when you enter that kindergarten classroom, you're ready to step it up and thrive.
If you just joined us, you're listening to Education Insight. I'm Lacey Kendall, and we're speaking with Kevin McCarty, the California State Assembly member and architect of AB 22, the approved and now even further enhanced bill to create transitional kindergarten for California children. So how will this impact those who already work in preschool education and training? Think about that for a quick minute as we take a break. Free to all transitional kindergarten is coming to California. How will it affect those who already work in early education? State Representative Kevin McCarty is with us, and we'll answer that in just a moment. I'm Lacey Kendall, and this is Education Insight. Today we're looking at how free to all transitional kindergarten will affect our children and our education system here in inland Southern California. Joining us is State Representative Kevin McCarty. Mr. McCarty, how will all of these new TK centers and offerings affect those who are already employed in very early education?
Well, we're going to need to hire a lot more, many more people in the field. That's one of our biggest challenges in the next 3 to 5 years. We're dramatically increasing the number of childcare slots. Those are, vouchers for families to go to childcare, and we're doing these new TK classrooms. So we're going to have to hire more teachers and paraprofessionals. So if you're an existing teacher and you like working at a family childcare center or a preschool classroom, you can stick around. But if you want to go work in the school district or work in a TK classroom, we will have opportunities for those too. One of the things we're doing in this year's budget is we're going to put more money and resources to make it easier for people to go get their education to become an early educator, an early education professional. And these are professionals, and it's a shame that we don't value these professionals. Research shows that many people work in the field. They can make more money working at, Starbucks or In-N-Out Burger. And I always make the comment that, you can make a perfect latte and make, $16 an hour. You could work on making a perfect 4-year-old and help mold that young child into a successful student, and you get, $13 an hour. So what do we value sometimes? And so, we're working on those issues. Last year, we dramatically increased the reimbursement rates for our ECE workforce. So we're going to do it again this year. So, it's a big puzzle. It's not just one thing, but I think taking a step back at 40,000 feet, the California legislature, the governor, and the people of California recognize that early education is so important. It matters for kids' success. It matters for, people to, go to work, especially women who need childcare and early education so their kids can do well and they can go to work. So it's so critical to our overall economy and the success of the state of California. So that's why there's so much focus on this issue.
Mm-hmm. Mr. McCarty, you mentioned earlier a little bit about full day as opposed to the actual day that students would be engaged in learning. I wanted to revisit that. Will there be after-hour supports in place for working parents? And I think you're going to say yes, but could you explain that a little bit more for us?
Yeah. So full day kinder, including TK, is, let's say, roughly 4 or 5 hours, sometimes 5.5. Part day kinder and part day TK is 3 hours. That really doesn't work for families when you take your little one to school at 8, have to come back and pick them up at 11,
right? Or
drop them off at 11 and come back at 2. That doesn't work. That doesn't work. Parents need school that starts in the morning and that goes as later in the day, several hours, way more than 3. So the majority of schools do that. We're working in a follow-up law this year to make it so all schools will have the full school day. And a full school day, again, is not till 6. It's, let's say 8 to 1 or 9 to 2, something like that, right? But then we realized that what are people doing at 1 or 2, right? And granted, the same questions are going to be when their kid goes to kindergarten or first grade. What are they going to be doing after school? So we need to make sure we step it up and provide more resources for aftercare programs. And so we have that funding in the bill from last year, and then we're going to do even more this year. So it's a big part of the conversation. And as these are implemented, we're trying to make sure that families, guaranteed for low-income families, will have subsidies for after school, but even middle-class families, to make sure they have an opportunity to have a safe place for their kid to go after school as well. And to make sure it's seamless, that it's at the same location. You don't have to move kids around, right?
Mm-hmm. You're listening to Education Insight. Mr. McCarty, there's 2 programs we haven't even discussed yet. Those existing programs, California State Preschool and Head Start programs. Yes. So how are they going to be affected when all of this comes into play?
Well, think of it like this. Right now we have, roughly 125,000 kids who go to Head Start and State Preschool that are 3 and 4-year-olds. The majority are 4-year-olds. Well, all 4-year-olds can now go to school for TK. What that means is those Head Start and State Preschool programs can now serve more 3-year-olds. So there's a lot of low-income Californians who don't get any pre-K when they enter kindergarten. So now there's going to be an opportunity to have 1 year when you're 3, a Head Start or the State Preschool program, and then, TK via the school program. So, they'll have 2 years of high quality early ed before kinder. So that's going to be a real difference maker. And so we are increased. Some people say, well, it's more expensive to take care of 3-year-olds and 1 and 2-year-olds. That's true. I mean, think about, the ratios are very different for a classroom of 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds versus a classroom of 4-year-olds, just minding and keeping control of little kids. So we have dramatically increased the funding reimbursement for that. It's very competitive now. We're almost done. We need to do, I think, one more step this year to finish this thing we're calling rate reform to really tackle that. But also, we made sure we put in our bill language that says, like, if you are a low-income family and you are currently eligible for Head Start or state preschool, you can stay. You don't have to go to TK. So we're clarifying that there's a bridge for those existing income-eligible families to still go to the state preschool program, to still go to their family child care center. So if that works better for that family, they can stay. So really, this whole TK thing it's really about, the families right now who get nothing, right? If you're super rich, doesn't matter.
Right.
It's the families that just make above the income limit. So again, for like the Inland Empire, Coachella family, think of a family of four that makes, $60,000, $70,000.
Mm-hmm.
Right now they don't get any of the free stuff, right? And it's super hard to pay out of pocket for it. So they would be able to benefit. That's the big plus here.
That's very interesting. Let me ask you, are districts in California, are they intending on updating or changing in any way the curriculum as part of this initiative? And if so, what would that look like?
Yeah, well, the good news is this is not something new. We already have transitional kindergarten for the last, decade plus here in California, serving 4-year-olds that were born in the fall.
Right.
So, this will serve all 4-year-olds now. So that has appropriate curriculum that looks at the social emotional needs. It's not kindergarten curriculum. It's kind of a pre-K focused on, kindergarten readiness. So we have that in place. I think the bigger issue that we need to sort out is getting enough people to work in these classrooms and making the classrooms appropriate. Some school districts actually have declining enrollment, so they may have a classroom that's ready, that's underutilized. They're storing, who knows what. And so they're ready to go, but you can't just open the door and be ready to go. As we talked about earlier, you need to make sure we focus on, bathroom facilities in there and retrofit the classroom. So we did put hundreds of millions of dollars in the budget to help districts transition. And again, they could do this over the next 3 to 4 years. So we have time to work on this. So there will be districts that are ready to go. Some are. I know I've been working with your delegation down there in the area with Eduardo Garcia and Eloise Reyes, Sabrina Cervantes, and talking to them and their school districts, and they're super excited. The Riverside County Office of Education was the sponsor of our bill, and they're working with school districts to make sure that they're ready to go. So when July 1st hits, these districts are ready, and you'll see some being really effective early adopters.
So you mentioned that rollout. What is it going to look like between now and 2025 when it should be pretty much rolled out, right?
Yeah. What's it going to look like? Essentially, when you go to a school site throughout California, they're traditionally K through 6. Now it's going to be TK through 6. And frankly, most of these schools already have a TK classroom. They already have pretty much at least one. Now they'll have, 2 to 3, just like all the other grades in the classroom.
In areas that they didn't have it before.
Correct.
Where it was not available.
So it was not available. So now families will have, they'll still have choice. They'll still have choice. If they want to go to a private site, they can. Just like now you can go to private school for kindergarten. If you don't want to go to your public school, you go to a private school. If you want to go to a private TK, you can. If you're an income eligible family, that means if you're like a low income family that currently has a subsidized spot for you, you can still do that as well. So, but what this means is, tens of thousands of families in California won't have to shell out, $1,000 to upwards of $2,500. There are pre-K programs in Southern California and LA where families pay $2,500 a month.
Yes.
A month.
Mm-hmm.
That's outrageous. That's, almost $30,000 a year for one kid. And that's, some parents don't even make that much for one worker. So this is going to be a real benefit for working families throughout California.
So let's skip past 2025 and say it has been successfully implemented. It's widespread here in California. From your perspective, how's it going to change things?
Yeah, I think a few things I want to be looking at in 10 years from now. What are the academic levels for kids in elementary school, especially for low-income minority kids, who unfortunately are lagging behind on test scores. And so will this address our achievement gap? I think research shows that, TK does deal that. Mm-hmm. Also, one of the largest supporters of this over the years are major employers like AT&T and, the LA Chamber of Commerce and the Silicon Valley Leadership Group and the tech companies up north. Because why? We need more workers to fill these jobs of today and tomorrow. And, we have, our graduates here in high school aren't always prepared. And so this really helps with academic success later in life. So this is going to help our economy and our workforce. I think that's why we always see such a broad coalition. Sometimes the people that support come to testify on this bill, and it's kind of, you're going to scratch your head, are our sheriffs, our police chiefs, and our DAs. You think, wow, why would they come and testify in support of free universal pre-K? Because research shows that kids who go to pre-K and go on to school are less likely to end up in the juvenile justice system. So, I think that this will have an impact, a cascading impact, successful in a lot of areas that are just, frustrating areas to make a difference in California.
California State Assembly member Kevin McCarty and the architect of AB 22, the bill to create transitional kindergarten for California children. Assemblymember McCarty, thank you so much for taking our phone call. We appreciate your time.
Yes, thank you. It was a great conversation, and it's something that I'm really excited about and look forward to watch as we work to implement this throughout California in the coming years. Thank you.
This is Education Insight. Earlier this week, our reporter, Alyssa Silva, sat down with preschool veteran Josh Maya, who has been teaching pre-K in the Inland Empire and Los Angeles for decades.
Josh, what inspired you to become a preschool teacher?
I love working with children. My mother was a teacher, and so I always kind of knew that I wanted to teach. And I was fortunate to begin as a substitute teacher at a preschool. And I just love the atmosphere in the preschool. There's so much room for play, and the kids are just incredibly sweet. Well, at first when I walk in, they're always a little bit shy, but then they just don't want to stop sharing all their stories with me. And so I just love that innocence, the creativity, the open-mindedness of working in the preschool environment. The most rewarding thing about being a preschool teacher is the small moments that I have with the kids when I can see something clicks for them. When I was starting out as a teacher, I expected changes to happen quickly with the kids, but I learned that reiteration and consistency is just so important. And so it's really amazing to see a kid start to grow and understand, how to behave in the classroom or how to create things on their own, how to become more independent. And so I love seeing the kids as they get older and as they grow and develop. As a preschool teacher, there are these amazing, small, beautiful moments that happen every day. Some of the moments that are really fun and cute are when the kids will always make these drawings for you. And I'll have no idea a kid is working on a drawing for me. They'll be sitting there focused on a painting or a drawing or a bracelet that they're making. And then at the end of the day, they're like, I made this for you. And I'm like, why? And they say, oh, because I love you. It's just such a beautiful moment to hear that. If I have to think about a specific moment that was very impactful for me, that I go back to a lot in my mind, there was this one girl in my class who was having a really hard time sharing with the other kids. And she was getting into altercations with the other kids, getting physical. And so, I walked outside with her just one-on-one, and I was trying to ask her why she was acting out that way. Can you try to use your words? And she just didn't want to say anything to me. She was hiding under the table, and she was just in this mood where she would just not even say anything to me except for the word no. And so I just sat on the ground and I took a breath and I started playing with these leaves and sticks that were in front of me. And I started making up this little game, and she saw, and she slowly crawled out and picked up some sticks and leaves and started playing with me. I just kind of let the moment happen. I didn't know where it was going, but I just allowed for us to kind of play together with these little sticks and leaves. And before I knew it, she was just kind of smiling and talking with me and this and that. And then I was able to kind of transition the conversation into, Do you think when we go back inside, you can do a better job sharing and, maybe use your words if you want something? And she was just like, yeah, I can do that. And so it just was this beautiful little moment that occurred that, I think about often. Early childhood education is so important, mostly because of the social aspect that occurs. I think that can get lost on a lot of people. They think the kids need to be learning their ABCs and their numbers and this and that is important. But it's so important that these kids learn at a very early age how to interact with one another, how to speak to one another, how to manage their own emotions. If you can teach a kid how to understand where they're at emotionally and begin dealing with that at an early age, it's going to help them with friends, with tests. They're going to be learning their numbers and they're going to learn their letters. But they're also going to know how to make friends and how to share where they're at if they're having any frustrations. So I think that's why early childhood education is so important. It's that social learning, that emotional intelligence that goes on there. The message I would give to my students about how they inspire and motivate me is that I learn so much from them. I'm not sure that the students always necessarily realize that the teachers learn from them, but just by being themselves, they bring so much energy to the classroom. They inspire us and remind me of how to be a better person, how to listen to others. It's those basic skills that as adults we forget. The kids can even remind us of those things. And they actually do sometimes. Sometimes if one of the teachers, starts doing things out of the normal routine, the kids will be like, hey, excuse me, we are supposed to be doing this right now. And so I'm just so inspired all the time by the fact that they remember everything, they catch on to so much. And I'd say the biggest thing that I'm inspired by and learn from them is that it's okay to make mistakes. And something as simple as making a drawing or some artwork, these kids will just be in the zone, drawing, writing, creating something with zero judgment about what they're making. And as soon as they're done with it, they're like, oh, this is perfect. They put it in their cubby, sign their name, ready to show it to mom and dad. And it's just so beautiful to see kids creating with confidence and without holding themselves back. Yeah, as an adult, it's easy to say to yourself, oh, I don't know how to draw, or oh, I don't know how to do this or that. But it's really fun just to watch the kids just be like, yeah, of course I know how to draw. Here's a rainbow. Check this out. I believe that it's very important for every child to get the opportunity to get a preschool education. There are so many important things that go on in those first 5 years of a child's life. All the learning, the development, the growth that occurs, and the confidence that they carry with them as they go into school is invaluable. And it's just so important for them to be able to get that confidence at an early age. And so every child deserves that opportunity.
My name is Milo. I love preschool because I get to play with my friends. Preschool is important. I'm learning how to be nice and weak. I love preschool because it's fun. I love Miss Linda. She's a great teacher. I love preschool, and my favorite thing about it is story time. Hello, my name is Sterling Sayer, and my favorite part I love about preschool, it is math. I love preschool. My favorite thing about preschool is drawing because drawing is my favorite thing. Hi, my name is Presley Jade, and my favorite thing to do at preschool is slide down the big slide and play with my own friends. Bye.
We hope you'll join us for the next edition of Education Insight. Stories we're working on include the economics of the Inland Empire. Does our current academic curriculum actually prepare young graduates for current and coming industries in the Inland Empire? Be sure and join us for that, and so much more. I'm Lacey Kendall. Thanks for joining us.
Education Insight is produced in partnership with KVCR San Bernardino.
Our executive producer is Jacob Poor, and our production engineer is Tyler Veazey.
Alyssa Silva is our production assistant, and Lacey Kendall is your host.
Support is provided by Growing Inland Achievement, working together for inland education and economic success.
And by College Futures Foundation.
Do you have questions or suggestions for the future topics we should be covering?
Write to us at educationinsight.org.
Join us again next time for
Education Insight.